Welcome to the Teamsters Mobilize General Membership Meeting on Immigration. My name is Jennifer Hancock, and I'm one of the steering committee members for TM. Jose is trying to pull up some slides right now. And Kat, would you like to introduce our speaker for this section of Know Your Rights on Immigration?
Yeah, sure. Jose, I don't know if you want to give just some very brief opening remarks here as well. I can step in if you're working on the slides, but let me go ahead and say a few words, and then Jose can also speak up as we work through the technical difficulties. But thank you all for bearing with us. My name's Kat, also a member of the steering committee, along with Jennifer and others here. And really excited to have you all on the call today. As we all know, the incoming administration has really stepped up a lot of attacks, both in terms of rhetoric and concretely arresting immigrant workers across the country in efforts to further stoke divisions amongst the working class and weaken our solidarity and ability to fight against the bosses and the capitalists, both in charge of the big corporations and in the government as well. And we in Teamsters Mobilize have seen it as a really essential aspect of our fight against class collaboration in the Teamsters Union to take a stand against the General President of our union, Sean O'Brien, who has fully gone along with a lot of these attacks on immigrant workers and promoted various xenophobic and racist and anti-immigrant language that Donald Trump himself is using. In that spirit, we are going to present here today some information pertaining to the struggles of immigrant workers across the country, both in and outside of the Teamsters Union. And our first speaker today is Leticia Zavala from Es Nuestro, El Futuro Es Nuestro, sorry. And she very kindly volunteered to join our call here today to share some information on Know Your Rights for immigrants workers when we had another speaker step down. So really appreciative of her being here with us today. And I'm going to turn it over to Leticia.
Hey y'all, greetings from North Carolina. Just want to do one more check with Jose, but if the slides aren't possible, we can just go ahead. Should we just do it without the slides? No te veo, Jose. Okay, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it without the slides. So I work for an organization called It's Our Future. We started as a caucus within the Farm Labor Organizing Committee, which is a farm workers union in North Carolina. Similar issues to what Kate mentioned a little bit ago, just the union president not giving or hearing workers' voice within the organizations, and as a result, seeing some of our working conditions stay the same, especially during COVID. We saw dozens of workers die during the pandemic, and workers continue to die after the pandemic due to heat. And so we've just been organizing outside of the union for improving working conditions. And so we work with mainly workers who are either undocumented or are here on H-2A visas. H-2A visas are a specific visa that are granted to employers so that they can fill their need for labor. And so at any given point, any employer that has need for workers in agriculture can request visas and bring in workers, mainly from Mexico, but they can come in from 63 different countries. And so this visa is tied, comes with, like, of course, their immigration status. So if the employer doesn't need them anymore, their immigration status is canceled. They're dependent on the employer for transportation from their home country to the US where they're going to work. They're dependent on their employer for housing, and then internally for transportation. So going to the grocery store, the employer dictates when and where they go to the grocery store, when and where they go to the clinic or to get medical attention or visit any friends, right? The employer has complete control over most of them. We have specific issues with that, of course. In housing, we have issues with air conditioning. Mattresses became a requirement in 2007. So before 2007, we did not have requirements for mattresses in housing. There's overcrowding. There's no privacy. And at times we don't have access to kitchens. It's a shame I can't show you my pictures, but housing is bad, right? I can share some of the pictures in another format later. Maybe they can be shared. We also have a lot of wage theft, right? So for example, sweet potatoes, our members get paid 50 cents for a 35-pound bucket of sweet potatoes. And there's a quota. So they have to fill up 37 buckets in an hour. Otherwise, they get sent back to Mexico, right? But sometimes they're not given a token for the sweet potato bucket they picked, or sometimes they're not written down correctly. And sometimes the sweet potatoes that they pick are not minimum wage. And so we have to oftentimes fight that. Now, a lot of farm workers are exempt from a lot of the regular laws that other industries are covered under. For example, we're not covered under NLRA. We don't have the right to organize. We're not covered under the minimum wage laws in agriculture. And we're also exempt from some of the OSHA regulations. So we have those kinds of issues to deal with. We don't have the right to bathroom breaks. We don't have the right to breaks in the fields. We do have the right to water and bathrooms in the fields, but it's often questionable, right? Because we change field every day. And when we file complaints with OSHA, oftentimes we're not in the same field. By the time the OSHA investigator comes out to investigate, and then a lot of times who is interviewed by OSHA is controlled by the supervisor or the employer because of how everything is structured. So we have those kinds of things. And then we're constantly exposed to pesticides and what we call the green monster, which we have a lot of tobacco in our state. And it's basically nicotine overdose, right? When workers are working in tobacco, their pores are consuming the nicotine that's within the tobacco. And so they have hallucinations, they can't sleep, they have vomiting, diarrhea, all kinds of symptoms that come with the nicotine overdose. And then, of course, there's the constant threat of retaliation. The first thing is, you don't do what I say, you go back to Mexico, right? Or you're not coming back next year, which is a big, big threat. So, like I said, since 2020, we've seen over 20 deaths in the fields of North Carolina for different reasons. We have a campaign called There's No More Deaths, which is a campaign that we're fighting for access to medical attention, drinking water, and breaks for workers that are working in agriculture. Now, this is H-2A workers, right? These guys come on a visa. They have some protections because of the visa, but our undocumented workers have even less protections, and at times even more threats, right? Oftentimes our immigrant workers don't just need to support economically the family that they live with here in the US, but they also feel responsible for sending money back to their home countries for their extended family, right? Oftentimes they're dependent on recruiters. So there's people that can get you into the job, right? We see it a lot in meat packing. We see it a lot in construction, where there's people that call themselves like subcontractors, but they really are just like a form of getting people that are undocumented jobs, but there's a lot of exploitation in the process. There's language barriers, and for our undocumented workers, the threat of being deported is even higher, right? Things are crazy right now. Like there's so many threats, and there's so many so much fear and so many attacks. There I'm sorry. There's over 11 million undocumented workers in the US, and a lot of them are not criminals, right? A lot of them come to work, but they're criminalizing the fact that we're here, the fact that we're working, the fact that we're going to school. They're criminalizing everything that we do, and that has become just a consistent threat for our members. And so right now, the big thing for educating workers is like organizing, right? We have to organize because we don't know at the end of the day the intentions of Trump, in our opinion, is they want to expand the guest worker program. So they want to bring more people on visas so that they can control them more and they can exploit them more, right? So it's really, really important that we as co-workers, I guess, understand the fears of your immigrant colleagues and just support them. The biggest thing is don't let immigration into people's houses. Don't let immigration into your businesses. Don't let immigration into your workspaces, right? A lot of immigration officials, a lot of the people that are being detained are detained in the process of looking for someone else. So, for example, we had a crew of solar panel workers that were detained in New York. And they showed up at a laundromat looking for this one specific person. But in the process, they were asking others to show their documentation. And so they ended up detaining like 20 people inside a laundromat. So it's really, really important that if you see immigration and they want to go in your house, in your business, in your workspace, you ask for a court order, right? And that court order needs to be signed. There's a lot of tricks that they're using, like they're using detention orders from courts in your county court or different things. But if it's immigration, they need a specific job order. I mean, a specific court order. And so, and you still don't have to give your names. You still don't have to give your immigration status. It's really important to immediately call an attorney and get information. Things are really, really bad. Like, even if you ask for an attorney, like this worker who was detained a month ago, he will not get to be in front of a judge until May. So they're really delaying everything with the intent of having people not fight, right? Because there's also a thing where if you get detained by immigration, you can sign a self-deportation document, and that means you don't have to go through the process of being in jail. You just get deported and sent back immediately. But those are very dangerous because oftentimes people don't know what they're signing, and oftentimes they're accepting guilt for, being here, crossing illegally. They add on crime so that you'll never have the opportunity to to return. I don't know if there's anything else. I'm forgetting. I think that's it.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions? Use the raise your hand feature. You should see that at the bottom under reactions. We're just going to take a couple of minutes for questions in case folks need to get off. I know it's Sunday and everybody's getting ready for the work week. Sam?
Yeah, thank you for that presentation. That was it. I think I had an understanding of I thought I had an understanding of like the difficult conditions that agricultural workers are working under, but to see the pictures and the slides and to kind of hear it firsthand is a totally different story. I was wondering, so in the Teamsters Union, we are under the NLRA framework, and we're often quite shackled by that in terms of like, the union is very oriented towards following legal pathways and not necessarily fighting to develop the kind of actual strength of the membership. I was wondering if you feel that there's a different situation being outside of the NLRA, and what kind of successes you've had using the collective strength of the agricultural workers outside of that specific legal framework.
I mean, it's complicated to say, right? I've never organized under NLRA. We did have this whole internal conflict within the union, and dealing with the government was so tedious, so tedious. And I don't know, I felt like in terms of our experience, getting the government involved for the first time was very disillusioning to our members because they didn't do anything. The enforcement is really bad, and investigations are like half-assed. I don't know. But sometimes we rely solely on collective strength. That's it. And sometimes we get things resolved faster. We don't get extra protections or extra like monies from collective strength, but we do always get the respect, right? Like in almost every action that we hold, from the moment forward that we have a confrontation with the grower starts calling workers by their names, which is not very common in agriculture. And it's a different sense of power, right? Because when you're dependent solely on a government agency to correct certain issues, it also takes power from you and from the collective.
Thank you. Jose has gone ahead and posted our slides also in the chat. That was the slides that we were planning to use. And so, yes, thank you, Kat, for answering that question. Thank you again, Leticia, for coming and speaking to us. I'm going. Oh, Will, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Leticia, and I wanted to give her an opportunity to maybe highlight some of the brothers and sisters that she may have lost due to heat injuries. I understand it may be a little outside the scope of this call, but down here in the South, I've lost union brothers and sisters to heat. And at the labor notes panel that she was a part of, they all spoke very passionately about supervisor harassment and heat deaths, and that's something we experience in the Teamsters, especially down here in the South. And I wish that our union from top to bottom was fighting shoulder to shoulder with all workers. But our union president is attacking them when we should really be reaching across and fighting with people in the same conditions. So Leticia, if you just wanted to speak a little bit about some of the heat deaths, or maybe say a few of those brothers and sisters' names.
Yes, I will say Jose Arturo, which was very, very tragic in 2023. It was his first year coming to the US. A week after starting to work, he started feeling bad, and the night before he said he didn't feel well. And his boss, who is a state legislator, told him, if you don't go to work tomorrow, you're never coming back to the US on a work visa. So he went to work at 9 a.m. He started complaining, and again his supervisor said, that's how agriculture feels in the US. You feel like you're gonna die, but not one bastard has died on me yet. And an hour later he passed out in the field. They did not call the ambulance for 50 minutes. And by the time the ambulance came, he had passed away. He was 31 years old. And so this fight is gonna continue until Jose Arturo's family gets justice. Thank you.
Yes, shame on the boss. And thank you, Will, for that question. I see Jose has our slides up, so we'll move on to the next section of the meeting. All right, Jose, go ahead and start advancing the slides. You see there that we had a questionnaire, a link to a questionnaire. Someone posted it in the chat. One more. Yes. We have two union brothers, Tuzoke and Big Will, who also wanted to give some statements. Big Will, are you on? Would you like to speak? Looks like Big Will got knocked off. Let me see. Tuzoke, are you in a place where you can speak? Would you like to give a couple of comments?
Yeah. I am here and I can give a couple comments. Kind of like I mentioned at Workers Strike Back, it's been so much just shit for like months, not even months anymore. Like it's been so much for like the last year in relation to our leadership, Sean O'Brien specifically, because I think it is important to call out who the culprits are at this point. And it just seems like it wasn't going to end. And then, this whole anti-immigrant sentiment on, his podcast, or I can't even recall where half the shit's coming from these days, between the Facebook posts, the Instagram posts, his self-serving podcast, and, all of the different venues he's using. It's been really difficult to track everything. But I felt sort of, I felt like I needed to step up my own personal visibility around a lot of this. Which, thank you for circulating the picture of the rally that we had in Eugene, Oregon, where I reside. Eugene is not a heavily Latino, Chicano, people of color community. So it was really good to see folks willing to come out and speak up against what's happening right now. And really I would have been out there anyways, but what really motivated me to be out there, like especially colored up with all my Teamster stuff, was just these sentiments. If people don't know, our General President Sean O'Brien has been pretty vocal about his position about immigration at this point, social justice as something that needs to take a backseat to, as many of his officers have said, wages, hours, working conditions. They really love touting that lately, because they don't want us working on anything intersectional, and they don't want to work on anything intersectional. And because, my opinion, I'm sure a lot of people's opinion of it is that would conflict with the position they're sort of taking, being in Trump's corner, backing Lori Chavez Dreamer, which is a whole other terrible rabbit hole in of itself, just on the immigration topic. When you look at Lori's background, so I felt like I needed to be out there because there needed to be voices countering what's coming out of our leadership right now, amongst Teamsters rank and file. And I am an officer in my local, and I felt like it was important having my title to go ahead and be out there as well. Because what good is a title if you're not going to actually use it for good? So, I've just been seeing a lot of this develop more and more. And then when Kat and Jose reached out to me about Workers Strike Back, I'm not going to say I was conflicted, but, I've been around these politics for a while, whether as a business agent or just outside of the Teamsters or actively in it. And they tend to target folks that speak out, but I felt like regardless of wherever that may or may not go, it just needed to happen. It just needed to be more public. And around this particular topic, I'm third gen on my mom's side, second gen on my dad's side. But even the folks that were not Mexican nationals, the folks that were born here, like we were all part of farm labor at one point or another. My folks were both farm labor when their youth. My grandfather was farm labor. Both grandfathers were involved in farm labor, and both grandmothers were involved in farm labor, and of course all of our cousins, uncles, aunts, etc. So yeah, it got a little personal, the comments he made. And it kind of felt like, well, not to get too much into anybody's personal heritage, but I'm like, that's kind of a bunch of horse shit coming from somebody that's Irish American. Like you're gonna stand here and say that knowing that we all have immigrant backgrounds. Like that's a fucking tall drink of water. So that's what really motivated me to get out there, because I just felt like what is he even going, like what is he even talking about, and what is he going on about at this point? But um those are just a few things. I'm sorry if I'm not like super like on point or guided with what I'm saying today. I'm just saying it sort of where I feel it coming from, and we have to do better. Like this union's going to have to do better, and it's not going to happen with who's in there right now. And honestly, it's not even just the leadership piece. Like our whole structure is broken, like many of us have talked about before. So yeah, I mean, I'm the grandson, the great grandson of immigrants, and I felt like I needed to say something, especially as a Teamster and a Teamster officer. So thank you for listening. I appreciate it, and I appreciate everybody's comments here today so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Tuzok, for speaking from the heart. Big Will, are you in a place where you can speak?
Yes, I am. Sorry. We're having like these Santa Ana winds out here, and it knocked out the power to my house for a little while, but I got it back up. So like Tizak, I'm going to speak from the heart as well. I'm also a second generation Mexican-American Teamster. And my grandfather was also, farm labor or agricultural labor. He came from Mexico City, and our family history is like that of a movie. He came here to Orange County in Southern California on foot and worked in the fields in Orange County. And he was a successful entrepreneur and raised a large family over there. And my father, also a Mexican American and a Vietnam veteran, was a Teamster for 30 years. And we have two uncles that were trying to become Mexican American. They were Mexican American, excuse me, or Mexican nationals, excuse me. And they volunteered for World War II to fight fascism. And they died on Normandy Beach under fascist machine gun fire, trying to become citizens of this country. That was never granted to them. Donald Trump said that illegal immigrants come here to poison the blood of the country. Well, my family has disproven that. We have come here to become productive, successful citizens, hardworking, working class people that contribute to our communities, and we contribute to society. On December 17, 2023, the RNC convention took place. Even though Donald Trump said that, it didn't stop SOB from showing up and speaking to the party of white nationalism and racists. So like Tizak, that really bothered me. And it's heartbreaking because I've been a UPS Teamster all of my adult life. And my father was a Teamster, like I said before me. And before I became a UPS employee, I was coming out of high school, and my dad really hard stopped me from enlisting because I was about to do that myself and following in my my family's footsteps of servicing this country. And I got a job at UPS, and being a part-timer really opened my eyes, and I took a different path. I took the trade unionist path. And that's why these right-wingers really hate immigrants, because that's our history. Our history is with the labor movement. And that's why they always try to divide us by color, race, sexual orientation, because it's easier for them to control us that way. And I'm here to tell you guys that that's not what we should be doing, right? We should be uniting together as a unified force, because the enemy is not the immigrant. The enemy doesn't arrive at the borders, guys. The enemy arrives in a limousine. He arrives in a private jet. Okay, brown people are not the problem. The problem is created by the Elon Musk the Jeff Bezos, the Donald Trumps, the Carol Tomays, those are the enemies, not poor innocent brown people. I want to share a couple of reports with you guys before I get off and end my comments. Speaking of farm labor, I saw a report coming out of Bakersfield where the UFW workers up there were being harassed and intimidated by ICE. They went over,
Looks like we lost Big Will again. Like I said, the power has been a problem. When he comes back, I'll let him in when he shows up. Juso, do you have your hand up? Jose, next after that.
Yeah,
it's
just
gonna.
oh, is that Big Will? Oh, maybe not. Yeah, I'm maybe gonna fill in what Big Will was saying because I'm from that part of California. I can't speak to Bakersfield too much, although I've heard a lot of rumors. But I know in my hometown, Visalia, like they are. My mom texted me like 2 nights ago saying that they've been rolling around the neighborhood I grew up in. So like this isn't like this is very real. This is happening on the ground right now. Um, folks are under the impression that they're gearing up for this. Like they're not gearing up for it. Like it's happening. Like it's happening in real time. So I don't know if that's what Will was gonna say, but it's like people need to practice as much self-preservation as they can. So anyways, that I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thank you. Big Will, I see you're still on. We completely lost you.
Yeah,
Sam.
sorry. I don't know
Okay.
if that was my internet again, but yeah, I mean, there's another report that I wanted to share. Just down the street from me in South Central Los Angeles, I showed up in full on like gear, like it looked like something out of Modern Warfare, to harass and intimidate poor brown families. I mean, like I said, this is where we're at right now. And we need to get together. We need to form our own community self-defense. It's already happening out here. There's ICE patrols where people go out there and they harass ICE until they leave. That's what we need to be doing. And I'll just leave it at that, guys. And thanks for hearing me out. I mean, I really want to thank all of you for having this meeting. It's really important. Right now, my community is being targeted by the government, and we need to stand strong together and have solidarity with each other. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Big Will. You're as inspiring as always. Jose, you have your hand up. Do you want to speak?
Yes, good afternoon, buenas tardes, comrades. Jose Francisco Negrete, 952 out of here in Anaheim, California. My parents came here undocumented. I'm first generation Mexicano Americano. And those comments that SOB did was continued the right-wing talking points of scapegoating, undocumented workers who are the most vulnerables, like in my streets, all apartments and stuff. And I know of families or apartments that have, sometimes up to 3 families in a 2-bedroom apartment sharing it because of the cost of living, but they're doing what they could to get their families ahead. And for Sean O'Brien, and also for Sean O'Brien to make comments that he did on his podcast with Senator Josh Hawley, which is the second episode, hurts many Teamsters. There's Teamsters that their parents came here undocumented, and for him to make comments like that, not knowing, how it affects some Teamsters, especially Teamsters out here in the Southwest, was disgusting, and I don't think his views reflect those of the Irish community who were scapegoated at one time in U.S. history as well. So those comments just reflects the point that he's just a class collaborator. He's going to do whatever he can for himself, and the interest of the Teamsters are not being served. And what's disappointing is not having Teamster leadership, air quotes, not denounce those comments, or even just issue a statement on behalf of their locals saying we're in total support of our documented immigrant comrades who are just here just to get by. And this economy depends on undocumented workers because they're underpaid. The chances of them being unionized are it's not low, but it's uphill battle, because why? An employer could always use the ICE card, and I'm glad I'm seeing all these know your rights workshops. I encourage everybody to, if you're able to go to a know your rights workshop in your community, to please attend to one, learn about the rights, so we could teach another person, okay, you know what, here's your rights. If somebody comes to my door, they ask me, then I give them like a red card. I don't like saying this word that much, but the National Hispanic caucus inside the Teamsters, they have a red card that they put out on their social media. And there's plenty of other organizations and that are producing their own red cards too, and we should be participating in handing those out, and giving them to undocumented workers. They do have rights. They don't have to answer the door to ICE, but we know, especially out here, that they're scared. They're scared to go to the store. They're scared to go eat. They're scared to do things. And if you're scared to go to the store, you're scared to go eat, you're scared to go to a department store or to a Walmart or any other store, you're not participating in the economy. And if the economy has to take a dump because we have to scapegoat somebody, but yet we have the real enemies out here making billions, why should our tax money go to an Elon Musk owned company? It shouldn't. Why should our money go for a government contract with an Amazon? But they're not seen as the enemy. Our undocumented comrades, like my parents were at one time, are seen as the enemy, and they're not the enemy. So I encourage anybody, if you see or hear about a know your right workshop within your community, please attend it. So you could, like that saying goes, each one teach one. You learn the information, you pass it on to somebody else to benefit them, so maybe they could benefit somebody else down the road. So it's vitally important that we do that. And it's vitally important that there's organizations within the Teamsters, like Teamsters Mobilize, that are speaking out against this very anti-solidarity message of Sean O'Brien. Not respecting the history of some of us Teamsters that do have parents that came here undocumented. And just want to say gracias to our speaker that spoke earlier. Gracias to Big Will, gracias to Comrade Tizok for speaking. And I know there's some comrades on here too that might be first generation Mexicano, Mexican American like me, or Central American first generation. Please speak. Please tell them please share your stories as well.
Thank you, Jose. When you get a minute, can you advance the slides for me? Next up, we're going to be talking about the recent Valley Labor Report, and Kat will be discussing her experience with that. Kat?
Yes, thank you, Jennifer, and I'll keep it brief. All of us in Teamsters Mobilize are involved fighting on the shop floor day to day. When big struggles do come up in the Teamsters, we're we are there. You know, we all took part in the recent Amazon picket lines. Obviously, we're all very active in the UPS contract campaign. But the reality is that these large scale struggles only come every so often. And in the in-between time, there is a ton of work that we need to do to wage ideological struggle, to show people why it is necessary to oppose these political ideas that Sean O'Brien is putting forward, why it is necessary to see a main task of ours as advancing the crucial shop floor level struggles to a higher level, to the point where we can actually win greater power in our union to be able to wage things on a much larger scale in the interest of the working class as a whole, not even just in the Teamsters, but across the country. And so as part of that, we do periodically go on some of the YouTube shows. Recently, myself and Jose had called into the Valley Labor Report, calling out Sean O'Brien's bullshit, where he said that illegal immigrants were coming in and committing crimes and stealing our jobs. And we took a stand against that and called it for what it was. And right now, Teamsters Mobilize really is the leading force in our union that is taking that bold stand, even more than our so-called Reform Caucus TDU, which is now more of a lapdog than a watchdog, is what we like to say. And obviously, the attacks on our brothers and sisters who are immigrant workers are going to continue, and we need to continue to stand boldly with that. And we also know a variety of other issues are going to be constantly unfolding in the Teamsters, and we need to do our best to clarify to our union brothers and sisters, like, what's going on and what do we need to do to wage this struggle. And so there will be a lot of opportunities moving forward to do things like release the statements that we did on immigration, call into YouTube shows. We are trying to make more of an effort moving forward in TM to create some of our own content. So if you are here and you're in the Teamsters and you're excited about maybe filming a reel or giving an interview, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for you to take part in that. And if you are in our WhatsApp chat, you'll get updates. If you're not, you should fill out the Google form that Colleen has posted in the Zoom chat, and we'll make sure to follow up with you and get you looped in. I'll leave it there. Pass it over to Colleen.
Yes. And I think like maybe I could gear my few comments just to encourage that, like, we want all Teamster brothers and sisters to take these statements and bring them to their locals, to feel as if their locals or these podcasts that Kat was on, like, this isn't just something that those of us in the steering committee will carry out, but that when we do put out materials, that we should all bring them forward in our own ways and feel excited about that. And I think, at Local 804, I gave a speech that follows that similar kind of line that all of our comrades are speaking about, really, namely, call out Sean O'Brien's quotes, show how this is in direct opposition to international working class solidarity, which is needed in order to even like overthrow this whole system. I've been going to a lot of recently, like, different labor and immigrant, or like labor's position on the immigrant question, like, workshops. Sorry, that was butchered. But I've seen kind of repeatedly that there is a point made that, working and poor people know what it's like to work together, because we've all shared struggle, which is true. We generally are all unified by the fact that we're exploited by the capitalists, but we're also all unified by the fact that, like, we're going to be the group to, like, overthrow this whole entire system and really fight to have means over the production process and have ownership over all that we create, and not have this kind of dictatorship of the bourgeoisie ruling over us. And Sean O'Brien has no interest in trying to actually politically educate us. And it can be kind of sometimes nerve-wracking to be the minority, or to stand up at an entire local hall, or go on these podcasts where thousands of people are watching, and we can start to fill ourselves with so much self-doubt. Especially Sam made a comment about how, like, native born workers need to see that this is an entire working class issue. And I would just say, like, after I gave my speech, like, this photo here was taken because a driver of like 11 years came up to me and he was like, I filmed you because I faced a lot of racism in the Teamsters. And I've been meeting other people recently in New York who recognize certain speeches or TM materials that we've put out. So it really does, like, people really are waiting to organize around these issues and to take a stand with us. So I just encourage everybody to fight against those kind of negative ideas in our heads that tell us to continue to just keep our head down and go along with it. And I've seen just in our 2 years of being in Teamster Mobilize or so since the vote no, that like we are moving, what we're doing is not insignificant. So I just wanted to encourage that. So yeah.
Thank you, Colleen. Jose, you can go ahead and stop the screen sharing. We have a couple more minutes. If folks have any questions or comments they would like to make, use the raise your hand feature down under reactions. And I'm going to ask that you try to keep your remarks to about 3 minutes so we can get in as many speakers as possible. Will, I saw your hand go up first, so floor is yours.
So let me start out by saying one of our slogans for hundreds of years has been an injury to one is an injury to all. And that is never not going to be true, right? So for people who think that this isn't their issue, we need to explain to them that this is their issue. And I think that Leticia outlined perfectly, like, that we share common struggle around supervisor harassment, boss harassment, heat deaths, especially down here in the South. I can't explain to you how bad it is during the summer, and how our workers are at the same kind of risk that our immigrant brothers and sisters are at risk. And we should be siding with our fellow brothers and sisters. We should be siding with the farm workers. We shouldn't be siding with an administration that has millionaires and billionaires, littered throughout it. Sean O'Brien throwing his lot in with the likes of Josh Hawley and Dana White, a union buster, and Donald Trump, and by extension Elon Musk. It's shameful to our union. It's shameful to the labor movement, and we need to call it out. And last thing I'll say is that this talk of not being political within the union is bullshit. Teamsters Mobilize is the only group that is calling out what needs to be called out. TDU is laughably silent. They are not the Reform Caucus. They are a propaganda arm of Sean O'Brien. They need to be called out as such. One more thing: the ICE raids. They started day one of Trump's administration. That means that the Joe Biden administration and Democrats helped collude with them to set that up.
Thank you, Will. Umberto, Tuzok, and then Alex.
Oh, sorry. I meant to raise my hand earlier, but I'm not too good with Zoom. I'm just learning, so thank you for the walkthrough on the how to raise the hand. I wanted to speak after Jose and Big Will and Tizok about my experience. I come from a background. My grandpa came here, was an imported worker. He worked on the farms, and much like Leticia said, they don't get paid. My mom still goes to court. He's long passed away. She still goes to court to this day to try to get the wages that they owe to him. So we have to protect each other as workers, as people, because my parents came here undocumented. My two oldest, my oldest sister, my older brother, they came here as babies pretty much, and they had to get their citizenship. My wife came here undocumented, so when all this stuff happened with this regime, it really hit home because she's scared that she might get stopped, she might get deported, whatever. So it really hits home. But what they're doing is they're trying to attack um the lowest hanging fruit at this point for them. The, it's my parents have never earned more than I think $12 an hour, and they just finished paying off their house. So the way the country was set up economically before, it allowed everybody to be able to afford things. Now they're blaming, hey, look, that person is taking your job. That's why you can't afford anything. But it's these billionaires that are just escalating their growth on their money. I wish I was a better speaker to explain it, but um, the poem that always comes to me at this point is First They Came. So when they're coming for the immigrants and we don't speak up, who are they going to come for next? Because every single one of us, regardless of whether we're white or Mexican or El Salvadoran, we all deserve to be treated with dignity. We all deserve to be able to earn livable wages and to be able to afford things. So if they're going to try to take away these workers and their rights to a life, then who are they going to go after next?
Thank you. Tuzak. If you're speaking, you're muted.
Sorry, no, just the tools are not super intuitive on the phone. um, well, I just want to thank you guys for putting this together, and Umberto, thank you for your words there. That was even though you said you're not as versed in public speaking as you'd like to be. That was well stated. So that's appreciated. But yeah, no, I just want to thank you guys for doing this because nobody else is in our union, at least. So thanks.
Alex, saw your hand. You still want to speak?
Yeah, I'll go briefly. In the spirit of what Big Will said earlier, about sharing knowledge, I attended a really great Know Your Rights training that was virtual last week that was presented by an immigration attorney specifically. It was geared toward healthcare providers. He shared 3 responses that I thought would be really helpful to share just for knowledge wise and to share with your coworkers, and they're quick. The first one is if anyone's ever approached by any kind of agent, cop, whatever, don't talk to them. The best way as a worker to get out of this without being awkward is, I'm sorry, I can't talk to you right now, and then turn around and walk away. But don't engage them in conversation. Don't talk to them. I'm sorry, I can't talk to you right now. Turn around and walk away. If they try to stop you, say, hey, wait a minute, we need to talk, reach out to you, grab you, whatever, then don't talk to the cop. Don't talk to them. The only thing that comes out of your mouth is, I'm remaining silent. I want to talk to a lawyer. I'm remaining silent. I want to talk to a lawyer. And you just repeat that. The last tip is if anybody is being searched, if they try to look through your bag, through your car, through your locker, whatever, and instead of like getting in the way, causing the ruckus, just repeat loudly over and over, I do not consent to the search. I do not consent to the search. It might not stop them in the moment, but it might help Big Will, I saw. The only thing coming out of my mouth is ACAB. All cops are bastards. Fuck them all. Anyway, so those are the 3 tips. I thought they were very helpful. But the bottom line is don't talk to them. Don't answer questions. Cops, ICE and any other kind of agent of the government, they are trained to lie to you on purpose. They will lie on purpose to trick you on purpose. And that's something that people forget. And so if you give them any opportunity to stay in a conversation, they will take that and they will try and wheedle information out of you, which could be harmful to yourself or your coworkers. So don't talk to the cops. Don't talk to the cops. Don't fucking talk to the cops. Stay safe, comrades. And thank you to all the presenters today for sharing.
Thank you. That was some excellent advice and an absolutely excellent time to stop this meeting, an excellent note to stop this meeting on. Thank you everyone for attending. We will be also having a March general membership meeting where we will be talking about our longer term goals as we approach the elections for Teamster General President and eventually some upcoming contract negotiations. So I hopefully have intrigued you enough that I will see you in March. Everyone have a wonderful Sunday, and we will see you on WhatsApp or on here in March.
Thank you, comrades.
Bye, everybody. All power to the people.
Thank you.